Hi everyone, this is Navin Israni and this is SEO in 2025.
Naveen, what's your number one SEO tip for 2025?
So my number one SEO tip for 2025 is that SEOs should have a customer first point of view, right? Why is that? Because SEO in 2025 is a well matured function. It's well done, it's cooked to sophistication. SEO success relies heavily on getting the entire team, product, engineering, marketing to see its value and contribute to it. Without it, even the best strategy falls flat. So the real challenge for SEOs isn't just algorithm updates or keyword research, it's getting different teams to cooperate. But these team dependent tasks often get pushed down the priority list because those teams are focused on their own priorities, which will further strengthen those silos instead of breaking it down. Then there is AI overviews. As if ads and Google encroaching on website functionality wasn't enough. Now we have to contend with AI too. That is why it is important for SEOs to have a customer focused point of view. Even though the SEO function has become all the more complicated, there are certain SEOs that are able to work through these divides, break these silos, and deliver revolutionary success. So if SEO is the wheels of marketing, these SEOs are the race car drivers.
Okay, so they're in charge of other teams, they're leading other teams.
I would say they are able to fashion communication structures that make their job easier, that make the interface with the rest of other teams easier because they're able to communicate the priorities, communicate how it helps the other teams function.
I love that phrase, fashion communication structures. That sounds like the role of the SEO is completely evolving.
Indeed. So it definitely is evolving. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you communicate that to others. And communication is generally a very good soft skill in every role that you go. And it's high time SEOs stop working out of their silos and embrace these skills to be able to differentiate their careers as well.
So, what are the core skills for all SEOs in 2025 to embrace what has to be done in those more collaborative environments?
I'm talking about exactly one skill, and that is the title of the entire episode, and that is having a customer first perspective or a customer focused perspective. I know nothing about healthcare, okay? Or the business of healthcare, or not the actual medical stuff. Even in that, I'm not very much of an expert. But if I have to market to healthcare, if I get a job as a healthcare marketer, right? My job will be to understand what healthcare market is all about, the business of healthcare. So, for example, if it's a healthcare devices company, who are the players in the market? How does the business operate? When are these devices bought? How are they maintained? Are there any contracts for the maintenance of these devices? All of these things I have to consider as a marketer. Even though SEO, if I have to be an SEO, technically speaking, these things are not my first priority. My first priority is actually delivering the actual SEO task, but I am able to deliver those tasks better if I understand the customer better. So for me, I have to evolve into a marketer from just being an SEO. And how I can do that is to have a customer focused perspective. And there are lots of advantages of doing that too. Lots of internal advantages, lots of career advantages as well. I'll go into the advantages a little in depth now. The first one is it allows you to reduce tool dependence. When I first started, I was a SEO content writer. To improve my performance, I learned a lot of on-page SEO. I learned off-page SEO to some extent. I understood what keyword research was. And this was back in 2016, 2017. So at that time, I learned a keyword specific SEO approach, and I learned a tool dependent SEO approach. If you research any keyword research guide, if you go on Google, I'm pretty sure most of it are populated by tools. So we have to find a way to reduce this dependence, because tools, a assuming Google, Bing, Yahoo, or any Yandex or any other search engines that we are talking about, we have to focus more on customers. These tools are not directly connected to the search data of Google themselves, right? As I always say, Google knows the data most accurately. So I trust Google's own SERP to do my keyword research. I do use other tools which are generally marketed like SEMrush or Ahrefs as keyword research tools. There's still a very good use case for those, but I would not spend a lot of time on optimizing my entire strategy according to the numbers that tools suggest, because the numbers are not accurate. And in my personal experience, I have seen that. So, for example, there was once keyword that in my last agency, there was one keyword that we had suggested to the client that didn't really have a lot of volume. And it's very difficult to communicate success when you don't have these numbers backing you, right? But we were able to somehow communicate that, and we were able to convince them that this is what audience cares about. And I showed them proof from within the Google search. The exact topic had a lot of subtopic searches. In People also asked in related searches or related suggestions at the very end of the search, and it autocomplete as well. So I was able to gather all that evidence, show them there is enough demand, and if you write about it, and it will work. And sure enough, it shot up to number one in top three in about a month's time after, within a month's time after it was written. There was another example where I saw the tool data was about 50 monthly searches, but when the page was published and after a few months, when I looked at the search console data, there was 7,000, 8,000 even search impressions. So how do you account for this mismatch? The only reason is that these tools don't have 100% accurate data. They can be used as a reference, but to make it entirely dependent is a mistake. On tools, to make it entirely dependent on tools is a mistake.
So, but when you say that you trust Google's SERP to actually do your keyword research, how do you know that you're not missing out on key opportunities? Because when you're searching for keyword phrases, you come up with a SERP result. But how do you identify opportunities that you didn't know existed?
It is a lot more dependent on using Google the right way, right? So if you type a keyword and then press space, Google gives you autocomplete suggestions, right? So they are generally a good idea of what the user is searching for. So that is one idea of one way to see what demand exists. And if you search adjacent or semantic keywords, you go down the page and you see a specific type of pattern that emerges within the search results. That could be one takeaway. That could be used as one takeaway. So, for example, if I'm talking about debt financing, there are a lot of results that are focused on buy now, pay later, specifically for SaaS, right? So, because I had worked with one such client, so that is a pattern that I can see emerge. Or if I see BNPL related, 2-3 extra searches which are focused on BNPL in the related suggestions section at the very end near the page numbers. That is something that I would definitely see as a pattern, and I would use it as an expand and search much better. So makes sure. So yeah, that is why I would depend more on Google and less on tools. I'm not saying I would not use the tools at all, but they will be my secondary priority, because in a lot of times these tool searches are extremely focused on bottom of the funnel, right? And it's very hard to find high quality audience first terms that have good volume from within these searches that are actually relevant to your product or service, because they might give 50 terms and you might find one or two keywords that are actually relevant, and a lot of them are just common that can be aggregated into a single topic as well.
So if you're not focusing so much on keyword volume, what does this mean for reporting to clients? What do clients look for nowadays when you're focusing a little bit more on customer experience? And how do you justify financially, from a revenue perspective, the activities that you're focusing on?
So a lot of times, what I understood from this, from my work at the previous agency, is that a lot of high level businesses don't really care about impressions, clicks, rankings, because they have a lot of other things to worry about. They mainly care about revenue. They mainly care about leads. They mainly care about conversions, or probably not even. They care about regularity of those conversions. They care about regularity of sales. And sure, middle management does care about the things like impressions, clicks, and whatever other low level metrics that matter to them, right? So the low level metrics that matter to them also have to evolve, right? So things like, instead of impressions and clicks, you can look at how many keywords is the piece ranking for. That gives us expands the footprint, right? So if you're talking about any topic, and if it is ranking for like 10 keywords versus another topic that is ranking for 50 keywords in top 10, I'm talking about just top 10, right? So we can say that we were able to capture a much bigger search share for the brand. That could be one. Second one could be something like, how many competitors did we beat? How many higher level competitors did we beat? Did we beat the best piece that we've ever found about that particular topic? Right. So these two just come to mind right now. I'm sure there are many other ways to report success.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2025?
Like I said, tool dependence has to be reduced. Funnel dependence has to reduce. So if you're going into a new niche, I would say focus on selecting and building out specific niche, right? Of course, all customers are different, and you can't really be an expert in every industry in your own SEO field. That would burn you out very quickly. Instead, SEOs must niche down too, just like writers do. I'm not giving a niche selecting advice, how to select a niche. It's totally dependent on whether money matters to you, whether passion matters to you, or anything else that you think about. But niching down here means reducing the noise of other industries. As soon as you start an SEO job, the very first month, you're building out your task list, you're building out your plan, your project management software, include studying the particular industry. Books, very niche, probably very boring books about the industry. That would get you very close to your customers. Understanding how the product works is important. Understanding how industry works is important. So in your initial 2 to 4 weeks, have to be focused on that. So other than the SEO, give yourself an hour or two every week of studying the business part. Start doing that. Stop obsessing so much about tools, specific tools that you are relying on. Of course, they have their pills. I'm not saying you don't have to use that place, but make sure you are also focused on the customer equally, because SEO in 2025 is largely dependent on who can master the niche much better, right?
Navin Israni is an independent B2B copywriter, editor, and SEO specialist, and you can find him over at vocabartist.com. Navin, thank you so much for being part of SEO in 2025.
Thank you so much, David.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2025, the book, over at SEOin2025.com.